Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to this conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. And I would like to welcome my co-host for this weekly program, and she is the queen of the Celtic questionable comforts. Her name is Santara Kundalini. Welcome, Santara. Welcome. My gosh, we're so blessed to have you here.
Thank you, Chrism. It's good to be here.
Oh, you sound so demure. So, thank you, Chrism. It's welcome to be.
Oh, yeah. Am I using my voice? Well, I begin as always, and I will let people know where they can go to make a donation. And that address is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com, and in the upper right hand corner you will find the donate button, and all donations are gratefully received. And please know, as we always say, there is absolutely no requirement for a person to make a donation, but if you are in a position to do so, and if you're able to do so, then yes, indeed, they are gratefully received. Sometimes this method doesn't suit people, and if you want alternatives, do get in contact with me. Western Union is another method that can be used, and I can help you with that if that's a way you would like to make a donation. So again, this way is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. That's my announcement, Chrism.
I see. I want to thank you for that announcement, and I want to bring another wonderful, beautiful, special person on board. Her name is Elizabeth, and I believe, Elizabeth, my dear, I believe you also have an announcement. Welcome.
Yes. Hello, Chrism. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I would like to announce Kundalini at the Castle seminar in Shaktipat with Chrism in the beautiful town of Port Townsend, Washington, at the very tip of the Olympic Peninsula in the great Pacific Northwest. And the seminar will be held at Manresa Castle, which Chrism spoke about a little bit last week, which, like the rest of this Victorian seaport, has quite a history. So I also wanted to mention that we have a block of 25 rooms. So if you mention Kundalini Awakening, you will receive $50 off per room per night. If you wish to stay right there at the castle, which is where the seminar in Shaktipat is taking place, on May 9th, Saturday, May 9th, and Sunday, May 10th from 9 to 6 p.m. And I've been told that they're going to close down the entire hotel part of the castle during the whole weekend of the seminar now. So it literally will be a Kundalini castle for the
Kundalini castle. Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
and Elizabeth, can you speak closer to your microphone, please?
Sure. The price is $297 for the whole weekend for the seminar in Shaktipat, and last but not least, the special guest is Dharma Sound Kirtan, and their band will be performing at each of the 5 talks leading up to the seminar, the week of the seminar, starting on Sunday, May 3rd, and then one each night from Seattle all the way around and back up to Port Townsend around the Puget Sound. And the band will be attending also the seminar and performing at the seminar itself on May 9th. And we're certainly very blessed to have them. If you have any questions about transportation or the hotel or how to register, call Elizabeth, area code 360-732-7076, or you can email me at Dalton Gonzalez, DAultonGonzalez.Elizabeth@gmail.com.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you for those excellent announcements.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And bringing Her Holiness Santara back into the studio. Hello, Santara, all the way from the county of Cork in the country of Ireland. What was
Happy
that?
St. Patrick's Day. I was trying to do a sound effect.
Oh, yeah.
Like.
We'll have to get recorded audience sounds, I think.
I know. I keep meaning to have some nice sound effects for fun, and I keep forgetting. So anyway, happy St. Patrick's Day, if I may say so.
I'd like to welcome everybody who's in the chat room. Elizabeth Fashji, guest 1483, guest 1490, MJ Henderson, and Phil Karuva. Welcome, Phil. I see you're a new face, a new person coming in. I'd like to also welcome everybody who's listening on their phones or on their computers, and I especially like to welcome everybody who is listening in the future people that will dive into the archives and begin to learn about their Kundalini awakening experience with the archives. And so Santara,
yes,
how has your week gone? Have you had a Kundalini week?
Don't. I have. I've had, yes, I have. I haven't been speaking with you, so, yeah. Do you want me to share a bit?
Sure, if you like.
Not particularly.
Then don't.
It's been no, it's okay. It's been one of those weeks that has been, very filled with phenomena. Phenomena as well that is very tactile, very physical, very surreal. I've also had, at the moment, for example, today I have had, it's not out of body, but it is when I'm in my physical environment at the moment, it's a little bit surreal. And I'm hearing sounds and things like that are strange. But I've had this before, and it's a matter of grounding. I've reduced my Tibetans down to 9, because that's you, isn't it? It's very interesting because there's voices in my ear, like it happened twice, voices in my ear, not entities, not in my head. It's really strange. I had never had that before. It's like the crickets, that sound, that format, except it's actually voices. It's really weird. But anyway, but I've cut my Tibetans down to 9. Because as I was doing those, the energy was just, too much. So I've done that in the last 2 days. I've had a lot of emotional stuff going on as well. Really? So, and a lot of bliss. And so there's a lot of polarized, there's a lot of opposites going on with me at the moment. But I'm still standing. Yeah. So it's been. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of dreams going on. There's a lot of stuff going on.
All the things that bring us into the excellence of the blended reality. So it sounds like you're having basically a typical Kundalini week, and this is good. This is good. I would like to welcome our call-in listeners, too. I'd like to welcome Rosemary Goliath, listening from the White Room in Santa Rosa, California. I'd like to welcome Julia, listening from probably the Yellow Room in Minnesota. I'd like to welcome Eileen Laurel, listening from the really, really, really high up in the air room in Fort Myers, Florida. And I'd like to welcome Fashji, listening probably from his music studio in the great state of Michigan. And so thank you everybody for calling in and for listening this way. And I just want to let everyone know we'll be having some mini interviews with Fashji and with Julia. I'll probably want to start with Julia because She has to leave at around 4:30, and of course, as many of you may know, our show goes till 5, and hopefully Fashji can stay longer. I would like to let people know that you can look at the videos that are on the YouTube network, and you just go chrism.kundalini, and about 300 videos will come up. All of them are centered around the many experiences that can happen within the Kundalini awakening. I would like to let you know that we are on Facebook. We have Kundalini Awakening ! That is one of our large groups that are on the Facebook groups or communities. We also have Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 and Kundalini Awakening Systems 3. We have Kundalini Healing also on the Facebook networks and on the Yahoo networks. We have a Kundalini Healing at Yahoo groups, and we have Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 on the Yahoo groups network. And so many opportunities. Groups by the same name are also on the Google Plus networks. And so we're trying to reach out and to give as much communication as we can. We have 2 new websites that are in production. I'd like to thank Peter, and I would like to thank Carolyn, who are both contributing greatly to the development, the design of these 2 new websites. And so a big thank you to them as well. I want you to know that I'll be coming over to England in late August 28th, and there is a conference there. And I want you to go ahead and look on my Facebook page, Chris Mitchell or Chrism Kundalini, and you can see that the conference is there. tcche.org is how you can come to the conference, and I'd love to meet with you in person. So definitely look into that. My computer is saying driver issues are being reported, so I might lose my big computer. But right now I'm talking on the iPad, so that should be fine. Anyway, so without further ado, unless you have more announcements to make, Santara, without further ado, I would like to welcome Julia to the program here. And here she is. Her microphone is red hot, just like her. Welcome, Julia.
Hi, Chrism. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Julia. Hi, Julia. Hi, Julia. Hi, Julia. So,
okay.
Can you speak a little closer to your microphone?
Sure. How's that? Is
Maybe
that better?
A little louder. This is like, hello. Hello, everyone. This is Julia. How's that? Okay. Julia, you just went to the Mankato Expo, and you were there representing Kundalini Awakening Systems 1. How did that go for you?
You know, it was a wonderful experience. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. It was so much fun. And we met so many people, quite a few people who already had Kundalini. There was one woman there who was Kundalini awakened and was just really, really happy to meet other people who have this as well. And it was just amazing. It was so much fun. It was just, it was surprising how many people actually came and talked to us. You know, we were the only people there who really weren't selling anything. We were just really providing information, and we were giving the Ishti blessings. And then we did give a talk on Saturday evening, and it just went really well. It was just really fun.
Well, can you explain to our audience what an Ishti blessing is?
Sure. I think you've described it as an invitation to a person's Kundalini. So I was there with Steve Schumacher, and we were doing the Ishtis together. So he would stand behind the person, and I would stand in front, and we would make eye contact, and we would both ask our Kundalinis to give the person whatever it is that they need most right then, and we would, invite their Kundalini to be more energized, to be more a part of their life. And yeah, pretty much everyone felt something. We had people in tears after receiving this, and we didn't do it for very long. We did it for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and just a very gentle process, but it seemed to be very moving for a lot of people. So
you say they were in tears of joy or tears
of...
tears in
a good way. I think just not tears of sadness, no. Many of them seemed quite surprised to be feeling anything at all, and many were just really enlivened by it, energized by it, some quite moved by it, and pretty much everyone who received a blessing wanted more information about Kundalini. So fortunately, we had a lot of information to give them.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, I understand that you gave a talk as well, and let me understand further that you were not scripted. There was no script, and there was nothing memorized, and I just want to know how you were able to think of all the different things that you were able to say without having a script or a piece of paper to read off of. How did that work?
Well, it's so funny because I am the world's worst public speaker. I have a terrible fear of public speaking, or I did. And I would never be able to stand up in front of people and talk without massive preparation and, having something that I would pretty much read off, and I would turn bright red and stutter and all, that kind of thing. But this time, I'd asked the Kundalini to speak through me, before I went up, and it just flowed, and I could really feel my heart just opening up and connecting with everyone in the audience, and I just spoke from my heart and my personal experience, and it just flowed. It was just incredible. I'm still amazed that it happened like that, but I just trusted Kundalini, and she came through beautifully.
Excellent. How much time was this flow of consciousness going for you?
For me, I think it was about 20 minutes. We had 45 minutes to speak, and Stephen had given a short introduction, and he talked about his experience, and then I got up and spoke about mine. So 15, 20 minutes, and then he spoke some more, and then, I spoke some more as well. So, yeah. So good, 15, 20 minutes.
I understand that from talking with you earlier, that because of your Kundalini development, you're able to see discarnate creation. Is this so?
That's true. Yeah.
And that being at a psychic expo, there was plenty of that to observe. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It was almost overwhelming at first. Yeah.
And you were saying that there was a presentation being done in the corner room, and there was a very long or very strong connection of these discarnate creation there, like a concentration of them, yeah?
Well, that's correct. That it wasn't so much a presentation, it was just there were quite a few mediums and Reiki practitioners down in that corner, and there was one booth that had some animal bones or some bones, and there seemed to be a big collection of entities around that area, and I don't know if it was just the people that were there or the artifacts that they had, but yeah, there was one area just full of entities.
They were like bones taken from a graveyard or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Wow. And so you noticed a lot of Reiki practitioners and mediums kind of centered in that area?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what can you describe the little experiment that you and Stephen participated in?
Yeah. Well, I think this was Saturday evening, after I'd been watching these entities all day, and I'd also been observing Steve give the Ishti blessings, and whenever he would put his hands on someone and start to give them the blessing, I would see entities start to lift off these people just automatically. They just didn't want to be around that kind of energy, or they didn't seem to be able to tolerate it. And so then Steve and I were talking about this, and I said, well, I wonder what effect you would have if you actually went down to that area where the entities are so concentrated. And so he was game, and he walked down there. And at first, he had stopped at one booth about halfway down. And as he was talking to the person there, I saw a huge gathering of entities around him. And I was seeing it with my naked eyes, just a lot of orbs and a lot of flashing lights and a lot of shadowy and smoky activity sort of around him. There was quite a buzz. And then shortly after, I saw what looked like a group of small black birds just fly up, right up into the sky and disappear. And then the activity around him started to abate, and he started to walk down towards the area where the concentration was the highest. And what I noticed was it started to get brighter and clearer, and it was almost like, when it's really dusty and it rains and the air is just clear and bright and, refreshed, and it started to feel like that and look like that, and it was just really interesting to see the brightness. And, by all means, not all the entities were gone, but a considerable amount had left, just with him walking down there. It was quite amazing to see.
But and just for the new folks in our audience, what do these discarnate creation? What do they do? I mean, what are they doing to people, or why are they attached to people? What's going on with that, Julia?
Well, in my own limited experience, because it's just been a few months that I've been more aware of this, I get the sense that a lot of them are just, they're hanging around, they're waiting to attach to people. A lot of them are trying to corrupt people or influence them in various ways. So a lot of them will, be on the shoulder. I'll see them on the left or the right shoulder, and they'll be kind of dug into the back of the neck or the back of the head. And I think they're just...
With like claws, or what do you mean by dug in? How do they attach?
I think, just claws or tentacles. There'll be sort of tentacles going in that I can see. And I think they're just really trying to influence people. And I don't know. I mean, they're different. There's so many different kinds of entities, and everywhere I go, I see more and more different kinds. But I think their main purpose is just to derail people or to corrupt them.
Mm. And so when Steve walked into the middle of all these entities, how is it that he did not get corrupted?
I don't know. I don't know.
How is it that you don't get corrupted?
Well, I certainly get approached. I really do. And I have to be very vigilant about it. And I do see entities every day. I really do. And there are certain times where they kind of crowd in, and I just have to be careful. But I suspect that if you're aware of them and you practice devotion and surrender and you're connected with your Kundalini and your teacher, if your Kundalini has brought you to a teacher, that really helps. It really helps a lot.
I see. And what kind of physiological experience did you have, on your physical being? I know that when you and I went up north to Oregon, we ran into some individuals that were heavy laden with entity infestation, and it gave us a headache. Were you getting a headache down there too?
I did. At one point, we had a young man come into the booth, and he received an Ishti, but he was very heavily laden with entities, and there was actually what looked like an ET attached to him. It was very strange and unusual and quite negative. And within a very short time, I felt just a boring into my skull. It was extremely painful. I had to leave.
Were you able to release that entity from him?
We tried, but the ET, no, it was not budging. But he did get some relief as well. Yeah.
Oh, well, good. And what other experiences do you recall that were, say somebody's just tuning in and they don't know too much about Kundalini or anything. What other experiences of a Kundalini nature was occurring there? Maybe were you and Steve doing the gazing that we did at the seminar? Tell me what was happening between you and Steve as you participated in that expo.
Well, we started doing that on the second day. The first day we both had our eyes closed as we were doing the Ishti. But then, we discussed it, and we remembered that you had us, making the eye contact during the Shaktipat during the last seminar, and also when we've had some meetings with our Minnesota Kundalini group. And both Steve and I know that that's a very powerful experience, and we definitely feel the flow of energy stronger. And as we make the eye contact, it was clear that the people receiving the Ishti were feeling the energy much more strongly as well than they had. These were different people than they had when we had our eyes closed. So it was quite an interesting effect that it was having.
Oh my! Well, how beautiful for you and Steve to go down there and to introduce people to the gifts of Kundalini that can come through a person that's been awakened by the Kundalini. Tell me, without going into getting too personal with it, where does Kundalini help you with the challenges that are presented to you in your daily living?
Oh my goodness. Where do I start? Well, as you know, I'm going through what you have so aptly called a Kundalini fragmentation, and I think we've talked about that on previous shows. So I'm going through a huge amount of personal changes.
A thumbnail sketch for those who aren't going to go back into the archives. Kundalini fragmentation is when the life that you've been living up to that fragmentation begins to come apart. The life changes, the life circumstances change, the flow of life changes, and it begins to. In other words, in order to fill the cup of the body with the divine Kundalini, the body has to be emptied out of the previous wine. And so, maybe we should say water, because I'm not really a person. But so that sacred water is given into the glass, but the old water has to go out. And how has that process been going for you, Julia?
Well, it's been absolutely amazing. If this had happened to me, a year ago, even 6 months ago, I would have been absolutely terrified and resisting and, fighting and screaming all the way. It would have felt like something really horrible was happening. And yet now, as I'm watching all of my old reference points, everything that was familiar to me changing and undergoing, just dramatic shifts, I'm actually able to continue to feel bliss and joy and happiness and love and connection. And, sometimes sadness will come up because I'm human, and, but that sadness, instead of being a basis for resistance and anger or other negative emotions, it's more opening me up to a deeper level of compassion. And that's helping me respond to the situation in very loving ways and forgiving ways. And it's just amazing to be able to go through this. There's a certain level of detachment that's coming forward, but there's also just that the bliss and the happiness and the joy, just watching this unfold. And because I have a teacher now, because I know that this is Kundalini related, I have the information to know what this is really about, I just see it in a very positive light. And I'm still fairly early in the process, so I don't I don't know what this is going to be like a month or 2 months from now. But right now, I'm just amazed that it feels as good as it feels.
Now, with the level of the experiences that you're having, how strong is the level of change that's occurring with you? The fragmentation. I mean, is it just like you broke your nail, or you dropped a cup on the floor and you're, oh my God, I'm having bliss while I'm cleaning that up? How severe are these fragmentations? What happens to people?
Well, in my case, everything in my life is changing, from the way I practice spirituality to my family situation, to my living situation, to how I view myself. I mean, there isn't a single aspect of my life that isn't being changed radically, like polar opposite.
How radical? Let's get it. How radical is that shift or change?
It's all encompassing. It's complete. It's severe. It's drastic.
Wow. And what does your teacher think about all this? What is she doing?
You mean, I'm confused. Well, it's so funny because I have been getting so many dreams where Kundalini, Shakti is coming to me in my dreams and saying weird things like, the cookies are in the mail. Which, it probably sounds really strange to someone who wasn't in the dream.
Well, now, come on, now, wait. Are you trying to tell us that you didn't order cookies from Amazon.com?
No, I didn't.
Come clean.
But, this is Shakti coming to me in my dream saying, it's okay, don't worry. And, she's actually sat down with me and almost lectured me, because I got really upset at one point, and I was telling Kundalini off, and I had a dream that night where Kundalini came to me and said, okay, I know you've misbehaved, but stay focused, stay strong. It was just like, oh my gosh, I can't get away from this. But it's really good to have that constant communication from Kundalini, the constant connection with the teacher and the reassurance. There's really no excuse for me to be fearful at this point. And I know that if I just stay open and spontaneous and positive through this, that I'll be okay. I get enough reassurance to know that.
You have a flesh teacher, right?
Yes, I do.
Well, now how does the flesh teacher work with the inner Kundalini teacher? I mean, how does that setup working? I mean, let's talk about it in a way where people who don't know about any of this can understand. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to explain that because it's just, this is a very rapid process for me.
Well, your Kundalini awoke within you, right?
Right, with the help of my Kundalini teacher.
My understanding is it led you to various teachers, right?
Right.
And how many of the teachers were able to deal specifically with your Kundalini?
Only 1 out of 4 teachers. Yeah.
Okay, so is this one the current one that you have?
That's correct.
And how did the Kundalini pick this teacher for you? I mean, how did that work?
Oh, absolutely. And I know this because I get so much phenomena. And let's reveal, you are my teacher. So whenever when I first asked you to be my teacher and you so gracefully accepted, I had massive phenomena that very night. I had a partial spinal sweep for the first time that went from the base of my spine up to the occiput. I had an owl hooting outside my window. And that, it was way past the season for that. I hadn't heard the owl in years, and yet there it was. I had all kinds of phenomena. And then when I met you, I had more phenomena. Whenever I Skype with you, I get tons of movement in my spine. Whenever I follow, whenever I'm obedient and do what you ask me to do, I often get very strong response from my Kundalini.
Well,
so there's no doubt.
So you have to be obedient to the teacher? I mean, how does that work? That's not a very friendly word in the Western civilization. So tell the audience more about, God, what does it be to be obedient to a flesh teacher? What's that about?
Well, it's not as awful as it sounds, obviously. It's, it has to do with doing the practices and doing what's asked of me in terms of connecting with my own Kundalini and responding to being obedient to my Kundalini. That's essentially what it's about, being open to listening to my Kundalini, responding, and just, understanding that it's Kundalini asking these things of me. That's what I'm being obedient to. And I get so much confirmation from my Kundalini that I know, it's very tactile confirmation, that I know it's my Kundalini asking these things.
So what you're saying is that the Kundalini is really the force that is in charge, and the Kundalini, after giving you 3 teachers that couldn't really speak to you of the Kundalini, they gave you a teacher that could, or it gave you a teacher that could speak to you on its behalf from a flesh body that is not yours.
Absolutely, yeah. And it let me know from the first moment I watched the very first YouTube video that I saw of yours. I felt the movement in my spine, and I had never felt that before with another teacher. So I knew. But it took me a while.
Do you recommend people have this? Do you recommend that? Is this safe? Is this, because, it comes down to trusting another human being.
Right, and that would be incredibly hard for me if I didn't have all this phenomena in response, and maybe that's just my particular path that the Kundalini knew it had to be very direct with me or I just wouldn't get it,
Well, okay, so the Kundalini assigned you this teacher, and then, of course, you unfriended him on Facebook. Oh, my God.
I did. Well, I had asked, following the advice in one of your YouTube videos or somewhere I had read you advise people to ask Kundalini for a dream to see if you would be the right teacher for them. So I went and did that. But, of course, I misinterpreted my dream, and I wasn't sure. And so I didn't completely, that was it. I did observe you for, about 8 or 9 months before I asked you to be my teacher. I wanted to be absolutely sure, that you were the
okay.
right one. And then when I knew, then I proceeded. And I'm so glad I did.
And you would recommend that other people proceed with the teachers that their Kundalini gives to them?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing how much more quickly you can progress and how much insight and support that Kundalini will give you if you're on the right path and working with the right teacher. It's the difference between night and day for me,
now,
from working with these old teachers versus working with you.
Right. Now, many of the teachers, certainly from India, they'll say, "Oh, now it sounds like this," or if I can do my Indian accent, they'd say, "Well, now it sounds like this woman is very addicted to her phenomena, and this is not right. This is a distraction upon the path." Do you find that you're getting addicted to phenomena? Do you find that you're categorizing your Kundalini awakening experience by basis of phenomena?
Well, I've been told that by a certain teacher. So, I'm sure it must be true to a certain degree. But I think, and that's something that I'll have to certainly work on. But, right now, this phenomena has just been incredibly helpful in keeping me focused and keeping me, sane as I go through these massive changes at a very rapid pace.
Wow.
It keeps it real for me.
Yeah. Now also with regards to these massive changes in your, you mentioned the D word, D as in David. You mentioned the D word previously about devotion. And what does devotion mean in the Kundalini context? And how is it applied to your fragmentation?
I think, I have to really think about this. It is, honoring Kundalini first and above all things. It's honoring the Kundalini and the Kundalini teacher. It's really just trying to stay focused and putting the divine at the absolute pinnacle of my life, and everything revolves around that, and really honoring that, being grateful to it, just making sure that I'm always connected with that in some way. And so, I will do practices during the day, often spontaneously throughout the day, where I'm just thanking the Kundalini. I'm offering myself to the Kundalini, offering myself to the Kundalini teacher. And what that means is that I'm just staying focused on this path and honoring that above all things.
Above all things. Okay. All right, then. And Julia, your process is going so well, and your response to your process is going so well, that I just want to congratulate you on your diligence and your discernment and the excellent choices that you're making as this path begins to unfold in front of you, but also within you. And so, if I had an applause button, I would be hitting the applause button adamantly over and over and over right now. So, nicely done, my dear. And is there any kind of advice you'd like to pass on to the listeners at this point?
Well, I think if I would say anything, it's just, be open to this. If you've been led to a Kundalini teacher that is right for you, be open to that, and don't be afraid. You will go through a lot of tests, no doubt, but those tests are part of your refinement, part of your process. And as you go through each stage of that, you become more and more prepared to go further and deeper into this. I'm going through drastic things right now, but I'm prepared for those. I've been preparing for those for decades, really, when I look back over my life. So it may sound awful, but it's actually amazing. And I've been given perspective on this over the years that help me see what I'm going through now in a very positive way. So, no matter how awful it might feel and how scary it might feel, there's a beauty there, there's a divinity there, and just, be open to embracing that, and you will gain so much. It's just amazing. You,
my dear, are just amazing. Just amazing. And I want to thank you for joining us in this conversation about the Kundalini awakening. And I want to invite you to stay or go. I know you have a meeting at 4:30, so if you need to get prepared for that, then please do. And once again, thank you very, very, very much for sharing with us your experience at the Expo and your experiences with the Kundalini fragmentation and the teacher the Kundalini has given to you.
Oh, thank you so much for being such an amazing teacher. I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, my dear, I'm going to swing you over into the Shiva Blue. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
So there you have it, folks. I mean, this Julia is an excellent student, and she's paying attention. She's not afraid to question. She's not afraid to have discernment. But on the other hand, she's also not afraid to trust. She's not afraid to trust that which she cannot understand at the moment. She's not afraid to trust that which is not as clear as day to her in the moment. And so, this is not the easiest thing to do. And yet, when you're developing trust, when you're developing faith, you cannot know the answers. Or why would you need to trust in the first place? So she has taken those chances. She has done her research, and she has seen what is there to be had, and is it truth? Is it lie? What does it feel like to her? And she has made her discernment. She has made her choice, and she is being given the rewards of that trust and the rewards of those choices. So I really want to congratulate Julia and all the students that, like Santara and Rosemary and Eileen, Fashji, all of the students, Elizabeth and the students that have really began to work in these areas, to work and to receive in these areas. Now, I would like to welcome a question from Phil Karuba, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Phil right now is in the chat room, and I'm going to read what Phil wrote. And Phil Karuba says, right after my spinal sweep, I saw, in quotation marks, the all-seeing eye in my meditation. Is this a benevolent experience? Is the all-seeing eye the sun god Ra? Well, the all-seeing eye appears to people, not everyone, but to some people, it appears to those people that are having Kundalini. It is a benevolent experience. Yes, indeed, Phil. Nothing for you to be afraid of. It is not necessarily the sun god Ra. That was an Egyptian deity, and unless, of course, you're within the Egyptian belief system, and if that's the case, then, well, it could indeed be the sun god Ra. But if you're not in any belief system, you can kind of see the links that the all-seeing eye gives. And even in the Egyptian mythos or mythologies, the sun god Ra, which Christianity also has a connection to, the Son of God, or the sun god Ra. And in this case, it's referring to the inner sun, the inner S-U-N, that which is not gender descriptive, that which is the S-U-N, the sun, the point of divine energy that is housed at the base of the spine, that is actuated from the heart, the big check mark, that sacred check mark that brings levels of enlightenment into the person. So I just want to congratulate you, Phil. I want to congratulate you for seeing the all-seeing eye. And if you look at some of the research around the all-seeing eye, it's very interesting. You can see an actual all-seeing eye with the pineal gland as the eye, and you can see a very strong resemblance to the actual symbol of the all-seeing eye. So for those of you that have not seen the all-seeing eye and you don't know what we're talking about, go on to Google or whatever search engine you like and just put in all-seeing eye, and you'll see a very, very, very highly artistic version of an eye, and it will have, you'll just see one eye. Typically it's in black and white. Sometimes they color it in. And you'll see, it looks like an eye with a lot of makeup around it. A lot of makeup. But rarely is it any makeup that is currently being used by the folks that are using makeup right now. And so, yes, Phil, the all-seeing eye is a positive development. I think you should be able to see this as progress. The fact that it came to you after your first primary spinal or your spinal sweep is an indication that a communication is being established with you. Next time you see the all-seeing eye, be thankful, be grateful for its presence, for its presentation to you by the Kundalini that is awakening within you. So nicely done, nicely done. And Phil Karuba is saying, I'm a layman Buddhist, and he says, I have done a lot. Well, I'm not sure what a lot is. Layman Buddhist, it doesn't really what religion you're in. Kundalini begins where religions end. And so you'll find that Kundalini, and by any of the various names that it goes by with any of the various societies and cultures that recognize the Kundalini, the greater Kan and Li from China, the red serpent energy from the shamans in the Amazon basin, and so on and so forth. It doesn't really matter what belief system got you there. It's not going to be the same belief system that takes you from there. So whether you're a Buddhist or a Christian or anything that is along the lines of an organized religious organization, that organization may have been perfect, just perfect for you to get into the position of having and holding the Kundalini. But now that the Kundalini is expressing itself through you, there's really only one thing, one belief system for you to hold in your heart and hold in your mind, and that is the Kundalini. Call it what you will. That is the consciousness of the divine within you. And from that perspective, Phil, I will suggest that you focus on that and that alone. Okay? That and that alone. Let yourself be drawn into your Kundalini rather than what brought you to the Kundalini. So, for instance, if you're driving the car to the church, you're not sitting in the car worshiping the car because it brought you to the church. You're getting out of the car and you're walking into the church. And so I'm suggesting you get out of the car, the religious car, and you go into the Kundalini church. And that's what I would suggest with you. So I would like to invite anybody who has a question to call in. The guest call-in number is area code 347-934-0026. That's a United States area code, 347-934-0026. You go ahead and call in, and Her Holiness, the great queen of the Celtic nation, Santara Kundalini, will answer the phone, and she will direct you appropriately. Okay. And once again, I'd like to thank Julia for her appearance on our program today as a guest. And I just want to let you know that there is another guest waiting to come on. Another man who has experienced extraordinary events in his life. Events that, the vast majority of the populations would be stunned into disbelief. And I want to welcome him onto the program right now, and I'm going to put him in to the red hot seat, the Shakti Red, His Holiness, the machination of Michigan, the master mechanic of mindfulness, His Holiness Fashji. Hello, Fashji.
I tried to keep the mute button on. Unbelievable. Listen, I have been enjoying this program. I don't know if anybody has been getting as much as I have, but it's just been extraordinary, as all of them are. But this one has been particularly extraordinary. And I thank you for this wonderful introduction, Master C. I'm almost embarrassed. You know, I was sitting up here listening to Julia, and I was saying, you know, the words just flow right on out of her. You know, it's just like a fine-tuned machine.
She's awesome.
And then when I come on, it sounds like, you know, where's the easy chair? There are going to be a lot of spaces in between what he's saying, you know, because that's how he is. Maybe that's part of his Texas upbringing, that he always pauses a lot.
Y'all. Is that right, y'all?
Y'all. But luckily for me, I managed to get out to California, and that transformed everything.
Well, and a blessed transformation that has been, my friend. And I would like to extend congratulations to you. I mean, you've experienced a lot in your lifetime when it comes to the subject we're going to come up, which is a precursive phenomenon for many people who are awakening the Kundalini. And you did fairly well. You excelled fairly well, I think, in this phenomenon in order to rise so high in the organization that you were in. Wouldn't you say that's fairly accurate?
Yes, I would, Master. And I just wanted to, as we spoke about, I wanted to name it.
I would like to.
It is called Ekankar. It is the religion of the light and sound of God, and it's called Ekankar. For all of those who wonder where Fashji managed to crawl out of, that's where I come from.
And I'm sure you're not talking literally, or are you?
Well, I'm not absolutely certain if that was an accurate description of how I emerged out of it, but let's just say that I'm very grateful to the Kundalini for managing to spring me loose or spring me out of jail. So I will say that in all sincerity.
Well, yeah, I can accept that, and even though it describes itself as the religion of the light and sound of God, it isn't the religion of the light and sound of everyone's God. It's just what they see themselves as worshiping, and they're worshiping the great Ek, and they have a name for their God, and their God is, I believe it is Ek, is it not?
No, actually, Mr. Twitchell, Paul Twitchell, was able to change the letters around and come up with the name of Sugmad, Sugmad, and what that is it's a transformation of the Arabic word Surmad, Surmad. So I don't know how that happened. The Ek is another name for divine spirit or Holy Spirit, or as I see it, Shakti or Kundalini, if you want to use that term.
The one of the other names for Kundalini, yes. And Mr. Twitchell was of course found guilty of plagiarizing the great teachings from many other places, and this had a tendency to cause people to lose confidence in his leadership for that organization of Ekankar. Is this right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, there was quite a bit of an exodus. Once the proof was out through a gentleman by the name of David Lane, we were able to realize that a lot of the things that we saw as being the absolute truth were sort of tainted, or were indeed tainted. They were not originally what we thought they were. They were indeed transformations of other teachings that have been conveniently changed to support what Paul Twitchell was revealing to us. And it was not a bad thing at all, Chrism. It was, a teaching, I think, that in India is known as Shurat Shabda Yoga, or Radha-swami. It's an offshoot of that, and Paul was actually a student of Kirpal Singh for quite a while. He was also a good friend of L. Ron Hubbard. And,
the Scientology founder.
Exactly, and we all know what's going on with them. If we just watch the news, we see that they are under attack because of their methods and because of their teachings.
Right. And now,
so
what happened?
Out.
What happened to you? You rose fairly high in this organization, did you not?
Yes, I was a high initiate. I was also a member of the clergy. I was an initiator. I could give initiations. I was a spiritual aide, which means that I was pretty much a spiritual psychologist, if you will. And I left because there was too much turmoil inside my head and inside my heart over what I had come to believe as the absolute truth. And so, luckily, I had a brief period of time in which I was preoccupied with studying Reiki, and I am so grateful to Andrea Fretzko. I can't remember. Fretzko.
Yes.
Yeah. Who introduced me to you about 7 years ago in December, and said, you need to check this guy out. And I said, why is that? I'm the all-powerful Oz, I go check out. He said, just calm down, Fashji, and just check him out. And here I am. These years later, I'd like to say these many years later, but it's only been about 7.5, and that's not a lot of time. I was in Eckankar for over 30 years. So,
wow.
Yes.
30 years.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, you know that I know this answer, but I want the folks to hear it from you. What practice within the practices of Eckankar would be termed as a precursive element to Kundalini awakening?
I'm glad you asked it that way, because it wasn't until you spoke to me and told me that the out-of-body experiences that are prevalent in the teachings of Eckankar, and I'll come back to that, is referred to as soul travel, and I'll make a distinction between that and astral travel in just a moment, but it wasn't until you said that to me and I had to go deep within myself and ask the goddess, what exactly is Master trying to allude to? And then I realized, just in reflecting and remembering my initial experiences with astral projection. I prefer that to astral travel, astral projection, because prior to entering into an astral experience, there's a high vibratory sensation that we feel. It feels, it's not quite like a spinal sweep or anything like that. I mean, heaven forbid, but it is a higher frequency of vibration that we enter into before we lift off, if you will, into the astral body. Now, Kundalini is by far the most profound energetic experience I've ever encountered in my life. And I'm grateful that I wasn't stubborn, well, at least not totally stubborn, so that I was able to accept at least trying this whole thing of known as the Kundalini experience. And I'm so grateful to you for being so patient with me. I don't know if I've ever said it before, but I had my first Kundalini. Though I have said I'm grateful to you, Master. I know, but I had my first activation when I was 22 years old, and I'm well beyond that, at least by 3 times, I think.
You've been activated about 5 years then? Is that
it? No, I was activated over 40 years ago, and so I'm telling on myself. I've had several activations since then. Then I had my initial spinal suite with you, and my second one with you, and that is what actually brought me into the awakened state. And I have to tell you, it has changed my life in the most dramatic way.
And what part of the Ekankar astral projecting experience? I mean, what do they do that maybe other people could do without having to go to Ekankar?
Oh, yes. Anyone can do this because we all are individually and primarily soul. That's our true identity. It's not this body, it's not this mind, it's not the thoughts or the contents of the mind. It is that which is the observer, as I like to call it. It has the ability, through placing the attention on where it wants to be able to go there. And since we know that if anyone has studied your teachings, there are 5 bodies, or 5 basic bodies that each particular soul inhabits or has during its sojourn in the physical world. That would be the physical, of course, the astral, where the astral travel or astral projection is done. And then there are 3 others above that. I think you referred to the next one as being the psychological. And Santara, please correct me, or Master, correct me. This is a little bit different from what I had come to think as being reality before. But from those past teachings, it was known as the causal plane, where the seeds of karma are deposited for each and every person. Above that being the mental, and of course next being the spiritual or the soul body.
So 5 bodies of human expression: physical body, emotional body, psychological body, mental body, and the spiritual body. And the astral body would be a subsection of the spiritual body. So you're right. You're right on in it. So, and then of course there's the causal body, and then there's soul bodies and divine body. Those are all part of the spiritual expression. And so so you were able to explore these bodies, or they were teaching you how to astral project. Is that what you're saying?
No, a little bit more than that. They were teaching me how to travel into these worlds of reality through the use of soul, or each particular. You see, whenever soul is moving through these particular worlds or levels of consciousness, it uses that particular body. So on the astral plane or the astral worlds, it uses the astral body. And above that, say, for instance, if we were going through the mental worlds, we would be using the mental body. And if we were going into those worlds above duality, into the pure, positive spiritual planes, it will be using that spiritual body or the soul body.
And how does Ekankar, or how would you, if you're going to teach people to journey in this way, today, what would you teach them to do? How would you help them accomplish this?
I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I would tell them to stick with the safeties very, very sincerely, because I have found that this has augmented my practice and my understanding of all that I learned before, I would say surrender to the divine Kundalini within you. And if they want to call it the Holy Spirit, that's okay with me. I don't have a problem with that, but I prefer to call it the Kundalini because that, to me, resonates on a much deeper level. And I would say learn to be attentive during your meditative practices. Learn to be very attentive, and yet also learn to be surrendered, in a surrendered state during this time.
And will this take you out of body? Will this help you to have that astral projecting experience?
Yes, I think so. We all, well, let's look at astral projection for what it is. It is pretty much what we experience during the dream state in most cases.
Right.
So none of us are doing anything that we don't normally do anyway. It's just that there's an awareness, a being conscious during the experience that we miss during dreams. Dreams are a lot more reflective, where astral travel is a lot more direct.
Right. And I have found, because I've also had a fairly good level of experience with the astral projection, and I there's nothing that you're saying that I am in disagreement with at all, Fashji. I think you're right on target with what you're saying. But there are sequences within the separation sequence of astral projection that really resonates well with the Kundalini, and I believe this is going back to your mentioning of the frequencies or the vibrations that a person can feel as the mechanism within the body is preparing to eject the soul or the astral body into the area above the physical sleeping body. Would you agree?
Yes, totally.
Did you feel the vibrations that would start out at one speed, going from the feet to the top of the head, and then back to the feet and back and forth? Did you feel those?
I did. I certainly did. I have to tell you, I was about 7 or 8 when I first experienced my first astral experience, and I didn't know what was happening because I thought I was asleep. But yet I was very aware of what was going on, and I felt this numbness or this tingling throughout my body, and it was sort of in waves, as you just expressed it, Master C. And, I didn't know what, as a child, if you don't have preparation for this type of thing, you really don't know what's happening. But indeed it did happen, and that was the first time that I can remember that I experienced astral projection. And it was indeed, and it's almost like when you think about a turbine engine, how it starts out at a certain rate, and then it starts to increase more and more and more and more, and then the phenomena of travel starts.
Right. And so as the vibrations or waves of vibration go back and forth between the feet and the head and the feet and the head and the head and the feet and the feet and the head and the head and the feet, and they go faster and faster and faster, one can hear a sharp sound like a gunshot or a flash or something like that, and boom, you're out of the body.
I was going to say like the cork in a bottle of champagne. It's sort of...
Well, there you go.
But of course, we don't talk about alcohol. So yes, the gunshot. The gunshot. I was never drawn to alcohol, and so my alcoholic, it just doesn't resonate with me in that way. But it can resonate for other people. So, the cork is out of the champagne bottle, and the soul is free. Now, have you ever had the experience of just floating over yourself, watching yourself sleep? Yes, a most unique experience. The first thing that goes through the mind is, why am I down there, and what am I doing up here? And what part of me is floating above this body here? One of the things that you notice about the body is that it has this almost a gray glow to it, because that which enlivens the body is no longer present at that particular moment, which gives it its luminous quality. So that was the first thing that really took me by surprise, was to look down and say, is that me?
And did you think you were dead?
That was the first thing that went through my mind. I have to be honest. I thought I had died. And of course, the disciples of Jesus the Christ said that, I don't know if it was Paul who said that he died daily, or John, or one of them. I'm not, really strong on the Bible, so, but I do know that one of them says that they die daily, which is what this meant. They lose the attraction or the attachment, if you will, to the body, and dwell in their radiant body and their divinity.
Yeah, and to die nightly would initiate, you could die nightly through having, this type of an experience, but also you can just wake up in the middle of a dream and begin to have the lucid dream, which is, coming into consciousness during the dream state, and this would also bring a person into levels of that little death that we go through every night. Have you awakened in the middle of a dream, Fashji?
I have.
Now, which sequence do you like better? Do you like to awaken in the middle of the dream, or do you like to do the go through the whole separation sequence?
It's kind of hard to say because they're both unique. I think if I were to say which one I like most, it would probably be to awaken within a dream, because you're already in a heightened state of consciousness instead of, in the liftoff stage, as I like to think of it in the beginning of the astral projection. But indeed, I would say once you're in a dream state and something happens that brings you into a level of awareness that, yes, I'm dreaming, and I have the ability now to control this dream. That's an extremely empowering experience.
True. And I've had that both ways as well. And like you, I have found positive teachings, both ways with it. With regards to the Kundalini, though, you can learn a lot about your energetic anatomy by having these experiences, and there is guidance and there is help that will often come to a person within the astral projection state. Have you had that as well?
Yes. There are always, folks wonder what they're going to do when they die, or what their occupation will be, or whether or not we'll be floating around, sipping on honey and playing a harp. Well, I have found through my experiences that we are given responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities that we can have is to assist folks who have embodied in the physical with this type of isolated experience, and that is to have the assistance of reassuring, comforting, and engendering a measure of trust, because it is a different reality from what we are accustomed to living in.
I think that's an excellent understanding. Because it brings us right into the understandings of service service for other people, as you said, people who've been violated, people who are having a hard time due to having difficult experiences based upon their body and their karma and the society that they're in. So, say a woman, gone through genital mutilation and yet she's still alive, she survived it. And oh my gosh, this person's life has been altered so radically. How are they able to go forward? How are they able to go into levels of grace after such an awesome level of abuse that has been given in it? And I think it would attract a lot of good spiritual counseling to help that woman come through that type of a torturous experience. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree totally. This whole concept of love is I'm sorry?
No, Fashji, Centaura's probably on the toilet, so let's just give her a chance to get back and to hear that from a woman's perspective. And 3, 2, 1.
Did you want me to stay on?
Centaura!
I swear, I'm going to have a sound effect for that by next week.
Would you think that would be a good that would be a sign of service for a discarnate person or a person that's just passed on to give service to a person that may have experienced that? What do you think, Centaura?
Yes, I would agree. I would agree indeed with what you're saying. Of course I do. I think that even in the context of the astral, the safeties come into play as well, Chrism.
Yes.
When you're being lucid, that is exactly it works in both worlds, as it were, the physical or everyday life, but it also works in the astral. I find.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, Centaura. I couldn't believe. Now, have you also, Centaura, had the astral projected experience?
Yes, but not really as yourself and Fashji describe it. I have had it, but it was a long, long time ago. I don't get the sequence. I have had the pop, I've had that explosion, but typically for me, I lucid dream, and I've been doing that all my life.
Wow, that's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to put you back in the Shakti Blue. I wanted you to comment on this because this is a very common torture that is occurring to the sacred feminine on our planet right now, and I wanted you specifically, Centaura, to come on that. Thank you very much. Okay, Fashji, and so I myself kind of enjoyed going into a lucid dream and then discovering that my consciousness was awake and then being able to begin to direct the experience from the dream state. Would that be something consistent with your feeling?
Yes. It begins to, it makes you aware that we live beyond just. I don't have my sound turned up, and I don't know why I hear echoes. Let me turn my sound completely off here. Oh my.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm just kidding.
That's so not fair. Fashji is used to you.
I want to read what Manisha wrote on the chat group. She says, listening to Fashji, I remember now, when I was young, I had strong remembrances of being able to just lift off the ground and float through the air. What a great feeling it was. I can still feel it now, somehow now. And she says, Centaura has an echo. Fashji has an echo too.
Can I just say hi to Minister? Echo and all. I go away. I can hear it myself, actually. Nice to know you're awake, Minister.
Yes, all of us are sleeping,
Well, she's about 6
but
years.
Anyway.
6 hours ahead of me, I know. So it must be late.
That's right. She's in Ireland, I think. I'm not sure. So the precursive experience with the Kundalini really is the vibratory expression, also the level of knowledge that comes to a person through the astral projected experience. But I'm going to stick with the physiologics just for the moment, Fashji, because when you feel those vibratory waves going up and down the body, this also has an effect upon the chakra system, and this also begins to pulsate through the chakra system, and as it increases in its speed, and the person opens to it and allows it to occur, without getting in the way with having too much expectation or too much fear or too much of a conscious desire to experience this, as they open to it and they relax and allow it to occur, and these vibrations go through the energetic anatomy, this begins to condition a person towards having the Kundalini, having a form of a spinal sweep occur. Have you found similarities in your own experiences, Fashji, that would corroborate that?
Yes. And that's why I had to go back after we had our talk. And you said, "Hey, listen, this is a precursor, like a prerequisite for entering into different stages of the Kundalini awakening experience." So I would say yes.
Okay, yeah, and so this is really, I think, looks like, are you all hearing the echo? And Manisha says she's hearing the echo, and MJ Henderson is hearing the echo. Huh.
So am I.
I wonder. Even right now as we speak, the echo only on Fashji's line. I see. Fashji, why don't you hang up and call back, and we'll get you. Okay.
Okay.
Very good. So these areas of exploration with the astral projection and the Kundalini, very, very, very important, because they are connected. It's like Kundalini is the final destination, and yet within the Kundalini itself there are multiverses of experience that a person can have, and it can cause a person to come back life after life after life. With regards to, let's see if he's still got the echo here. Oh, this is Eileen. Sorry, Eileen. Sorry, I put you back in the blue here. So waiting for Fashji to call back.
I'm here.
Really, you're there?
I am. Well, I'm still echoing. It must be the story of my life at this moment.
Well, maybe we just need to hear what you have to say twice. Maybe it's a gift.
I noticed when Fashji comes on that there's an interference. I'm echoing now. I'm going away.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to have you on because I know that for 30 years you worked with Eckankar, and so for 30 years you participated as an astral projecting psychologist, spiritual psychologist. Would that be correct?
I would be safe to say that.
Now, they, as far as I remember, because I had a friend of mine who was into Eckankar, and he said they organized the astral into areas that they could recognize by a number. Is that right?
I don't recall that, Master C, but I do know that there are different levels of the astral plane, if you will.
So I found it very interesting, to get a fix on that. I know that another group that I worked with, called the Berkeley Psychic Institute, they also, or at least when their master was still alive, when their great teacher Louis Bostwick was still alive, he would also have the astral plane divided up into levels that were associated with a number. So he would say, raise him up so that he can go to level 17 or level 526 or something like that. And I did have a direct experience with that person in that context myself as well. And I just want people to know that if they're having lucid dreams and they're having astral projection, these are precursive experiences, because in a way, your body, your mind, your consciousness, your behaviors are being cultivated by this experience in order to be able to have the Kundalini. And with you, Fashji, because you've had the spinal sweeps and you're doing these devotions, you're doing the work. How do you see it correlating with your past with regards to astral projection?
Well, there is a definite connection, but it's sort of like being in high school and going into college.
Oh.
So there's a resemblance to the whole learning experience. It has now moved into a much higher frequency of expression.
Oh, okay. I can understand that. I can see that. Now, how long you've been a private student for a while now? Julia, she was able to talk about her devotional experiences a little bit, and and along the same lines with the same level of kind, considerate, cautious expression. Fashji, how do you feel the devotion is affecting your Kundalini awakening experience?
It has turbocharged my entire experience with the Kundalini. It has brought it into a much more profound personal experience, and I find that I am able to, and I'm not echoing anymore, I find that I am able to communicate with the Kundalini within me on a much more personal basis. It seems that the devotion to my teacher, to the Kundalini within me, to the Kundalini within my teacher, and to the divine goddess Shakti Kundalini, I see them all as one continuous oneness. And it has made it much more real. I don't know how else to say it. It has made it much more real and authentic in my life, and I would not have it any other way. I believe that the devotion component is the most important component that we can inject into our practice of the Kundalini.
I agree. I completely agree. And Fashji, I would like to thank you sincerely for agreeing to come onto the show and to talk a little bit about your past and your present experiences with regard to the astral projection phenomena that everybody does when they go to sleep, and they just don't remember when they come back to wake. I want to thank you for coming on, my friend. Thank you very much.
May I say something that you said to me that was most important?
Yes, of course.
And that was this, if it's okay with you, Chrism.
Yes.
Practice during the day. Don't wait until you go to sleep, go to bed at night to go to sleep. If you're really interested in learning more about this, be well rested and try it during the day.
Yes. You're absolutely right. I mean, I practiced astral projection during the day. I would do it in a car. I'd just park the car in a parking lot, turn the shades down, roll the windows up, cover my eyes lightly, and just off you go. With trying to do it at nighttime, you're going to fall asleep. You're going to get into that body regeneration mode, and that can often rob you of the conscious separation technique. So,
yes,
you are Straight up, Fashji.
Well,
I really appreciate you coming on board and helping people to learn more about themselves and about their energetic process through relating your own experiences. So, Fashji, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I'll get off into the Shiva Blue now.
Shiva Blue it is.
Okay.
All right, and I would like to, I mentioned Phil. Phil comes in, and Phil's saying, do you all notice the Egyptian kings, such as Tutankhamun and others, all have the serpent protruding from their foreheads? Phil, this is called the uraeus. And not every Egyptian king had true Kundalini. Yes, they were able to wear the crown that had the snake coming out, but that doesn't mean it was the real deal. Just like people these days don't always exhibit the Kundalini. They want people to think they're exhibiting the Kundalini, and so they, they say the words, or they write the book, or they do the video, or they, but not everybody is having the real deal, and not all the Egyptian kings had the Kundalini. And this is where I mentioned that might not be as true as a person might want to think. And yes, I see we have the astral, whatever that is. So yeah, the uraeus, when a person has a spinal sweep, the Kundalini will send a filament of itself through the sixth chakra, through the third eye, and this is often seen as a serpent. And I also had this occur, and so this is something that comes from my authentic experience with the Kundalini, having a shepherd's crook activation sequence. And so yes, Phil, you're on the right path, but you probably don't want to speak in absolutist terms, because very few things with humanity, and certainly very few things within the Kundalini, will have an absolutist generalized meaning for all people, or for an ethnicity of humanity, such as the Egyptians. And I don't know what Wajet means, but okay. So anyway, if anybody else would like to call in, the call-in number is the United States area code 347-934-0026. I'm going to bring Her Holiness back into the conversation, and the sound of a toilet flushing, and Santara.
Yes, Susan, I'm here. MJ has a question for you on the chat room. So I'll read it to you.
Please.
She says, I saw an eye one time, but I thought it was the third eye. Would that be likely, since I saw no makeup?
No, that would be the Shakti staring back at you. Now, of course, it could be the same thing, as I was just talking with Phil. That, we want to try to get away from absolute-based terminologies or descriptions with regards to the Kundalini. Yes, indeed, it could have been the all-seeing eye. The Kundalini eye itself, would have the distinction of being all-seeing. It doesn't have to be set up in Egyptian format. It doesn't have to have all that, that beautiful creative artistry around it. However, when you do see if you look at some of the comparisons with if you Google all-seeing eye and then you cruise down the images aspect, you'll come to an image that has the all-seeing eye kind of shown how it's being placed within the pineal gland complex, with the pineal gland being the pupil of the eye, and then the surrounding brain tissue around it as being the supportive structures for that eye. So in a very real way, that is showing you what that would be. But I've had other eyes just come to you. You have a blue eye come to you. You have the blue suns coming to you, the blue pearls coming to you. I cannot tell you how many embedded eyes I have within my own eyes. I haven't counted them. And so you want to be very, very, very easy with looking for absolutist terminologies with regards to the all-seeing eye. The all-seeing eye doesn't necessarily have to be a singular scenario either. You know, there can be many, many, many all-seeing eyes. I mean, how many people have eyes? Okay, how many people have pineal glands? And so, of course, the all-seeing eye is represented in many, many, many different ways with many, many, many cultural distinctions with it. It's not just one way. It's not just the Egyptian way. It's not just the Tibetan way. It's not just the Australian Aboriginal way. It's as many people who have their unique karma, that have their unique past life history, that will also have an effect upon how they experience the Kundalini extruding itself through the sixth chakra during a spinal sweep, and then maybe coming into their consciousness afterwards during meditation. Okay. Simplicity is not a bad thing, MJ. Simplicity is a good thing. MJ writes, "Thank you. Guess I just like simplicity." Well, you know, the simpler the answer, sometimes the better the answer. But sometimes, you know, things aren't as simple as we would hope them to be. And Kundalini is one of those subjects where it can be very, very simple at one turn and then very, very complex at the very next turn. So just you know, bringing that to you, you know, from there. And Phil also asks, does the caduceus represent the Kundalini? Yes, Phil, the caduceus is a physiological representation of awakened Kundalini, no matter what the MDs have been trained to think that it means. It is a far more ancient symbol than the American Medical Association would like to believe, and you know, God bless them in their ignorance with that, in their preference for one explanation that serves the purposes that they're using it for. We who are Kundalini, we know what it means. We know that when we see that, we see an exo-physiological representation of the soul, the spirit taking flight by virtue of the Kundalini awakening. So yeah. Well, look, now I want to bring Eileen on board here. Eileen, Miss Eileen, I want you to get ready, get yourself composed, clear your throat. And I would like to bring Eileen Laurel on board, and I would like to recognize Eileen Laurel for her great gifts of assistance to many, many people within the Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 organization, and she is indeed an ambassador of Kundalini. And I just want to say, first of all, right off the bat, Eileen, I would like to say thank you for your many efforts.
Oh, you're welcome, Chrism.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, for all the time that I've worked with you in the program, it has been my joy. I'm so happy that I'm retired, that I can devote time to the CAST program. It makes such a difference. That has made a difference in my life. So thank you. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. And I understand that you have a bit of an announcement that we should get on the air with regards to a meeting.
Yes, Saturday, March 28th, some of the Florida members of the CAST group are meeting here in Fort Myers, Florida. I know I have at least 3 coming. There have been a number of responses, and some of the people can't make it, but we're hoping to do other things where we can connect. And this is really a different paradigm than the Minnesota community that's being put together. The Minnesota community was brought together after the people attended seminars. This here in Florida is the opposite. I'm trying to, and I have people helping me, Mike, Sailboat Mike, who lives in St. Petersburg, and Bruno, who lives in Montreal, actually. What we're trying to do is build a community that will support events and a seminar here in Florida. Now, we're not thinking right away. The Washington seminar is the one that we're concentrating on now, but this is for next year. I'm thinking June of 2016, but we want to do a number of things between now and then, and bringing people together with the idea, and I'm hoping that people will respond and want to participate in supporting and helping bring the events to Florida. So it's a little bit different, and we're excited about it. Bruno and I spent quite a bit of time discussing possibilities the other night, and I'm just so thrilled that there are so many people interested. And I want to thank Bruno on the air here. I hope he's listening.
I would, this would be Bruno Rodriguez, and I would like to really isolate him for a thank you as well. He is through his own awakening, he is reaching out to other people in service and a strong sense of service and a very strong enlightenment, a very strong grace that has been given to him through his Kundalini, and he is doing. I mean, he's supported the Kundalini Awakening Systems 1, or as Eileen calls it, the CAS 1 organization. I think that we may be having a seminar in Montreal, and he's even reaching out 1,000 or so miles from Montreal to Florida, maybe even like 2,000 or 3,000 miles from Montreal to Florida, to help Eileen begin to open this up to the people of Florida. So really, a strong, beautiful blessing and thank you to you, Bruno Rodriguez. Thank you very much, sir, for your help and for your assistance in giving this information the opportunity to come into other minds and other hearts and other Kundalini awakenings. And thank you, Eileen, in this very, very same way as you expose the products of the KAS1 community to the many different web communities that you belong to, the Yahoo group, the Facebook group, the other groups, and as we begin to really put together this seminar in the Great Pacific Northwest with Elizabeth, hopefully we'll be able to have a community up there as well, and a community in Florida and a community in Montreal to really give people places to go. I mean, we just seems to be going into vacation spots. It seems, we've got Florida coming up now, and we have Montreal possibly, and we definitely have the Pacific Northwest. I mean, the Minnesota people should be going, wow, I can go to Seattle and meet up with Kundalini people, or wow, I can go to Florida and meet up with Kundalini people, and I really want to foster this type of a interconnected web work and network of Kundalini communities to support the members there and to support those many Kundalini awakening equations. And in that I would like to thank you again, Eileen, for your strong support and your strong resilient and continuous efforts towards that end.
You're welcome, Chris, and thank you.
All right, putting you into the Shakti Blue, and I'm going to bring Her Holiness Rosemary on board. And here we are, Miss Rosemary. Hello, Rosemary.
Good afternoon, Chrism.
And a beautiful California afternoon to you, Rosemary. And I understand you may have some announcements for the Kundalini community in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and what's the
St. Paul.
St. Paul, thank you. Minneapolis and St. Paul in the great state of Minnesota. Do you have some announcements for them?
Yes, thank you, Chrism. First of all, with deep gratitude and honor for Julia, who is a strong, very strong, as all of you listening could see, a strong support and inspiration to us. And as well, Steve Schumacher, who, the two of them that she mentioned doing the expo last weekend. So I publicly want to say thank you as well to them.
And I echo that gratitude. Thank you, Rosemary.
Yes. And from that expo, there will be things unfolding through the summer and through the fall from that and from some other expos as well. And right now, next Monday, we have, I don't know, maybe the 4th or 5th community meeting from that the Kundalini community that was begun with the September seminar. We have those folks, and we have been building this community so that when our seminar from February now is invited into that community, and will be together on Monday evening. And what we've done is, probably I've mentioned before, we schedule an in-person meeting, and we gather somewhere at someone's home, and then we Skype with Chrism, and we hear from him, and we meet with each other also. And then we alternate that with a phone conference line so that people who are not always out having to leave where we live or where we're working, but we do that in the alternate times. And these meetings are usually about 2 to 3 to 4 weeks apart. It varies. So we'll be continuing that. And I know how deeply touched I was to be sending out an email to the new people and saying also in the seminar that this community is open and waiting to receive them.
Well, Rosemary, pretty soon I hope we have to rent a hall, that there will be so many people coming to these monthly meetings. And I want to thank you very, very much for being the nerve center, the center operator for the development and the implementation of this Kundalini community in the beautiful Twin Cities of Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. So much and many gratitudes to you, Rosemary.
Thank you. My privilege.
Okay, and bringing her into the Shiva Blue, and I'd like to bring Her Holiness Santara back online, and I think we're going to wrap up the show for this episode of Kundalini Conversations with Chrism. And Santara, is there anything that you would like to add or anything that you'd like to bring up?
I would just like to add, it's been a wonderful show, Chrism. I loved listening to Julia at the beginning of the show. It was wonderful. It really was, to hear somebody speak about, devotion, to speak about phenomena, to speak in the way that she did. Was beautiful. It was wonderful to hear. And Fashji as well. It was wonderful to hear Fashji. I really enjoyed the show very much. So thank you, and thank you to everybody. And next week, same time, same channel.
Yes, my dear. Exactly. I'd like to thank Julia. I'd like to thank Fashji for their excellent additions and for their excellent energy and personalities and grace that they give into not only this program, but into all areas of their life as they walk through their lives. Kundalini Awaken. How beautiful is that? Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you next week.